We're in Indianapolis today, and we're actually filming in the very same location we did a while back for Sophia Pick's imprint assignment. But this time we're filming with Brian McCutcheon, who's a master fabricator whose studio helped build an artwork for Sophia Pick, but who's also an artist in his own right. Brian's work explores play, notions of masculinity, and the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. And while he works in a range of media, his starting point is often the common materials around us. Past works have seen him reimagine charcoal grills, lawn chairs, and the iconography of suburban American life. His work has been heavily informed by his interest in cars, speed, and flight. And a recent series of works engaged he and his son's fascination with the phenomenon and forms of space exploration. We are surrounded by things, mostly mass-produced things, and Brian has the uncanny ability to find the potential for resonance in them. So let's go talk to him and see what kind of assignment he has for us.
Hi, I'm Brian McCutcheon, and this is your art assignment. I spent a lot of time with my mother's brother, my uncle, and he is an obsessive maker of cars. And so if I wanted to find my uncle, I would go to his garage, or the garage he was working at the time. And then so I sort of look back at my first sort of sculptural experiences fixing up my first car when I was 16. You know, I had a $400 beater. And I made it nice by doing the body work and stuff to it. So, yeah, and I think that's definitely when I discovered I like to make things. I am of the opinion, and I might get in trouble for this a little bit, but I think the purpose of art is not about functionality. I think the purpose of art is about ideas, you know, about conveying attitudes. And so I don't have a problem if the thing still works, and certainly there's lots of artwork out there that works. But the work that I make, like I think of them as sculptures. When I was at the Bemis and I was working on an abstracted sculpture but using automotive materials, I was reading hot rod magazines at night. And because I grew up in Michigan and the history of Detroit auto and my relationship a lot with my uncle and that ability to apply identity to the vehicle, I decided that I should not step around the issue of art as abstraction and apply it to the things around me that I thought had something to do with maleness. I guess this was really when I started thinking more about male Americana. Was in Omaha, you know, like everybody there, like every time you turn around, hey, you want to do a barbecue, you know? And of course I was thinking at the time, well, the barbecue is something that's has a male identity associated with it, and but there's also this weird like feminine or cooking aspect. You know, I thought about guys in their aprons with the naked lady, you know, like that kind of facade. At the time I was also looking at Baroque artwork and men in the Baroque period like through dress. And so how do we as contemporary men ornate ourselves? And it's through our automobile a lot of the time. And so I was trying to mash those ideas together of maleness, of work, of automotive, and of decorative to sort of make this thing. So your assignment is to customize a common object. Find a common object that you find interesting. Make a list of identifying traits of that object. And then customize the object while thinking about and playing with one of those traits.
So Sarah, this art assignment is pretty similar to a previous one, Brandon Odom's Artistic Alchemy, where you take an old object and repurpose it while thinking about its history.
Yeah, it's similar in ways, but the thinking behind it is actually really different. This time you're looking at that object, you're thinking about its use value, its intended function, and then you're sort of focusing on one of those things and upending it.
Right. Okay, so like, you know how we have that cup that we pour on the kids' head when we're shampooing them?
Yes.
I put a bunch of holes in that cup so that Henry could see it come down like rain.
Right.
But then it stopped performing its function of being the shampoo cup because it didn't hold water anymore. Like that.
Like that, but in the context of this assignment, I think there are more interesting things you can do with a cup.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking of one particular thing that's been done with a cup, and that's this work by Méret Oppenheim, one of the key artists behind surrealism. And she did something extremely interesting with a cup.
I would like to hear about this extremely interesting cup.
I will tell you. So the story goes that in the mid-1930s, young Méret Oppenheim was having lunch with Picasso and Dora Maar at a Paris cafe. Picasso admired the fur-covered bracelet she was wearing and remarked that you could cover anything with fur. Oppenheim shot back, even this cup and saucer. Soon after, André Breton asked her to participate in the first exhibition of surrealist objects. And so she went out and bought a teacup, saucer, and spoon at a department store and covered them in the fur of a Chinese gazelle. At the time, there were a number of artists taking found objects and arranging them in unexpected, irrational combinations, with the aim of summoning our unconscious thoughts and desires. With the fur-lined teacup, Oppenheim pretty much did this assignment. A teacup is common, inanimate, washable, appropriate to drink tea from. It's ladylike and proper. Lining it with fur transformed it into a bizarre, animal-like thing, more appropriate to touch than to place to your lips, more sensuous than genteel. While the surrealist goals may have been different from yours or mine, their use of unexpected juxtaposition is instructive in approaching any common object, be it a pair of shoes, a telephone, or a forklift.
The thing that I feel like would be critical about the assignment is that it's not just about decorating, right? It's about trying to change our opinion about the thing that we're looking at, whether it functions or not. For my art assignment, I decided that I would customize the shop's forklift. Fork truck is a tool in the shop that gets thoroughly abused and no one thinks about. And so I felt like if I applied the customizing to it, it would change our perspective of what it is. What I've done, or what we've done as a collective, we've disassembled it. We've disassembled the forklift. It was pretty battered, so and it's one that we got used, although it was in pretty good condition. So I ended up stripping off all this terrible bodywork on it, and then so we bodyworked all of the panels and put them into primer, and then put a base coat of color on it. And then I started striping and paneling and prepping it for the sort of the custom paint aspect of it. You do it because it should enrich the environment in which you live in. And you know, if it's great work, maybe it'll change or enrich the life of somebody else who sees it. Hi, I'm Brian McCutcheon, and this is your art assignment. Gotta do it again. That'll be the cutout at the end, right?